The snowball effect. It's a process that starts from an initial state of small significance and builds upon itself, becoming larger, and also perhaps potentially dangerous or disastrous, though it might be beneficial instead. So what comes to mind when you hear that? I personally think of Christopher Nolan and his films like The Dark Knight, Interstellar, The Prestige, and Dunkirk, for example. If you're familiar with his work, then you'll know that his films are recognized for having cross-cutting editing techniques. Basically, cross-cutting is often used in films to establish action occurring at the same time and usually in the same place. I'm gonna stop for a second. Let me show you one of the best examples of cross-cutting in cinema history. Oh, and I guess spoiler warning, so you've been warned.
And all his works
I do renounce them.
and all his poems.
I do renounce them.
In Nolan's films particularly, cross-cutting helps to enhance the emotional resonance and buildup of suspense, which he himself in fact actually labels that technique, well, the snowball effect. Dunkirk is a fantastic example of cross-cutting done masterfully, and there might be some minor spoilers ahead, so you've been warned again. The entire film of Dunkirk is basically one large cross-cut. Nolan ties in 3 separate story arcs pertaining to characters involved on the land, sea, and air, and switches back and forth constantly. He establishes the conflict and dangers each character faces right off the bat, and typically the audience's investment into the characters allow us to feel tension, but instead, Nolan implements tension to make us invested into the characters. The cross-cutting is done in a way that makes the viewer feel like they aren't just a spectator, but they're another character alongside the already established ones. Playing and distorting the sense of time is another aspect of how Nolan uses cross-cutting to his advantage. In several of his films, a non-linear structure is utilized, and Dunkirk's plot essentially takes place over differing lengths of time. It's structured, once again, to add suspense, and because of this, many scenes that didn't happen concurrently are edited so they seem like they are. This structure makes the story build tension much better than if it would have if it followed in a chronological order, and that's what makes Dunkirk's narrative so compelling.
I approach the structure from a very mathematical and geometrical point of view. A lot of diagrams, a lot of careful planning about how I was then going to write the script. And so the structure I settled on is one that it's based on a musical structure called the Shepard Tone, which is a musical illusion whereby you can keep climbing up the scale. It's something I'd used in my scores, like the David Julian score for The Prestige was the first time we experimented with it. So you're continually going up the scale, but you never seem to go out of reach, if you like. And I wanted to try and apply that to screenwriting, to a narrative, and say, okay, with this story, can you braid together the 3 storylines in such a way that you create the idea of a continuing rise in intensity?
These examples perfectly highlight why Christopher Nolan is one of cinema's brightest directors. He structures and has his films edited in a way that is quite unconventional in regard to many modern films. And so, next time you think of the snowball effect, hopefully Christopher Nolan will come to mind because I believe he's truly mastered this editing technique.